Hey y'all, this is the last week of the Every Bit Counts challenge hosted by Jessica at Three Rivers Homestead. And I have got some kind of virus, so I apologize, but I am very under the weather if this video doesn't sound up to par. But I put most of the zucchini in the freezer, but with the rest of it, I made some zucchini fritters. And I will have that recipe linked down below in the description box. I just mixed it all together and fried it in some avocado oil and waited until they were nice and brown, and they were really delicious. All right, I took some chuck roast from the freezer, so now I'm going to can these. I'm going to do a raw pack. So these are kind of like the ugly chicken, where you can just cut the meat up and put it in the jar with some salt. You don't have to add any liquid, so that's what we're doing today because, like I said, I am not feeling that great, so I'm just going to do the easiest thing I can get by with. So this is going to be really good because it'll cook in its own juices. But what I'm doing is just getting rid of some of the fat on here because you want to take away as much fat as possible. And you can do it in meat strips, cubes, or chunks. And I'm following in this recipe, but you can get the same thing on the University of Georgia website, and I will have that link down below so you can follow it exactly. So I'm going to get to cutting up these roasts, and then we'll come back. Okay, I got it all chopped up. There's not a whole lot of meat because I cut a whole lot of fat off of it. That's what happens when you've got a grass-fed beef that's got a lot of fat on it. So that's not going to go to waste. I'm going to take all these bones and roast them and make some broth with them. So all I've got a half a teaspoon of salt in the jar, and I'm going to do them just like I did my chicken, my ugly chicken. You don't want to pack it in the jar, but you want to make sure that all that air pockets are closed up so you don't get a whole lot of bubbles. I filled the jars to an inch headspace, and I didn't have enough for a whole quart or a whole pint, so I did a half a pint. You can go down in size but not up. So I'm going to put my lids and rings on, and we're going to process this for 75 minutes. And this is the only time you can stage your jars, which is they're cold jars and you're putting cold meat in there. So you're going to put them in some not really hot water, and that way there won't get any, you won't have any thermal shock. So I'm going to go ahead and hurry up and get these jars in there and process them for 75 minutes. All right, as you can see, the meat made its own juices, so it's covering the meat, so that's going to be good, and it's going to be delicious poured over some rice or some mashed potatoes. And I did put some chicken in there with it. I had some chicken breast, and I had room in the canner, so I put some in there, and I'll do another load a little bit later. But I'm excited to try the beef. It came from a cow from my sister and her husband, and I know it's going to be really good. But then I took some pork that I had laid on a sheet tray, and I just flash froze it. So now I'm going to freeze those and add that to my freezer. I wanted to make sure I had plenty of green beans in the freezer, so I bought these and washed them really well, laid them on a sheet tray and froze them, and now I'm going to put them in the food saver and put them in the freezer. And I had some raisin bread that was in my cabinet for way too long, so I went ahead and laid that on the sheet tray, and I will put that in the freezer, and then that way I can use that for some French toast. And I also just took some regular bread and put that in the freezer too. That way I can either use it for French toast or I can use it for some breadcrumbs. Today I am going to pickle some peppers. I've got some jalapenos and banana peppers out of my garden, and I'm going to use both because I don't think these are hot, and maybe they will let the temperature go down just a little bit, but I doubt it. I think these are hot. I fermented these, some of the ones out of my garden, and they were really hot. But these will be great on some nachos or even some pizza. So I'm going to go ahead and get these chopped. This is 2 pounds. All right, y'all. I cut up my jalapenos, and I have got to read the directions better. Please read the directions better than me. I thought it said 2 cups or 2 pounds. It said 3 pounds. So I had to go out there in the garden and pick some more till I could have 3 pounds. So I've got 3 pounds here. I've cut up, I've took some of the seeds out. I tried to get as much as I can out because these things are hot. I can just breathe around them and I can tell they're really hot. So I've got 3 cups here that are cut into pieces. All right, here is my brine. I've got 6 cups of vinegar and I've got 2 cups of water, and it called for 3 crushed cloves of garlic. So I've got that in there. I brought it to a boil and I simmered it for 5 minutes, and now I'm going to take the vinegar out. I'm going to take the garlic out, and then I'm going to start canning. I've got my jars here getting hot. I'm going to put the jalapenos in the jar, and then I'm going to put the brine over it. So wish me luck because these things are hot. I'm going to try not to get it on my hands. Okay, all my jars sealed, and I can't wait to use these on some nachos or some pizza. But I don't know about this recipe. It didn't have you cook the jalapenos in the brine for a few minutes, so they did float a little bit, but I think they're still going to be good. I found ground chuck at Food Line for $2.99, so I bought up what they had so I can can some ground beef. That is a very good price. I wish they had more, but I'm going to go ahead and can it for the very first time. I've never done it before. I didn't have time to can everything, so what I did was I just did it in advance, and I browned the ground beef. And I got my jars in the water, and I'm heating those up. And those are all the wide mouth. And I'm going to do a layer of the wide mouth on the bottom, and then I'll do a tray over the top of that, and then I'll put my smallmouth jars on the top because my canner won't fit the wide mouths on the top too. So I have to do the smaller ones on the top. And I'm canning mine 3 ways. You can either use a boiling broth, you can use boiling water, and you can use tomato juice. So I've got the boiling broth here, and I've got the water back there, and then I'm going to use the tomato juice. And I used filtered water. I didn't use the water from the sink. So make sure you're using filtered water if you're going to put that in your canning. So I'm just going to heat that up, and then we'll start the process. And the directions say that you're supposed to put the hot meat in the jar, but since I'm using the cold ground beef that I did it the night before, I'm just putting it in the tomato juice here and heating it up, and then I'll can it. I'll put the beef in there, and then I will put the liquid on top. Okay, I've got them stacked in my canner. I have got a rack in between, and I did find a couple more regular mouth jars, so I'm going to put the lid on there, and we're going to process these for 75 minutes. All right, it's the next day, and all my jars sealed. I'm going to use the ones with tomato juice with spaghetti sauce and chili, and I'm going to use the one with the beef broth for some soup, and I'm going to use the one in the water for some taco meat. And I'm going to try each one out, and I will make a video and show you how I used them all. And I want to thank Jessica for hosting the Every Bit Counts challenge. I love doing it every year, and it just makes me so productive. And I hope y'all enjoyed the videos, and I can't wait to show you how I use these in some recipes. So I will see y'all in the next video.